Hello, America. I'm Judge Andrew Napolitano in for Glen Beck tonight. First up, the debt, the president, and you. Today we found out that the president claims that the debt does matter. Now, for most of President Obama's tenure, he subscribed to a bogus economic philosophy that argues that government spending spurs the economy and that the government can borrow as much money as it wants in order to carry out this absurd idea. Thus, he supported initiatives like the stimulus packages, which borrowed and flushed $1 trillion down the drain. Because this economic philosophy, government borrowing and spending its way to prosperity, does not account for political influence. And as we all know, when money is being spent and politicians are the ones spending it, it's going to be wasted on their pet projects that don't help the economy grow, but just ensure the re-election of the politicians who do the spending. But today, the president has finally realized that the debt does matter. But is he willing to spend less? No, of course not. He's willing to tax the folks who create the jobs and thereby slow the rate of economic growth. After all, under President Obama, the debt has exploded to the tune of $1 trillion a year. Joining me now on the president's debt dance, South Carolina Republican Senator Lindsey Graham. Welcome back to the Glen Beck program, Senator. It's good to see you.
Judge, how you doing? I miss you.
Thank you. Same here. Senator, I think we just witnessed the kickoff to the president's re-election campaign. What do you think?
I think he's getting religion because of the way the wind is blowing. I like the president personally, but his budget a couple of years ago or a couple of months ago did nothing on spending and entitlements. This is an effort to change his positioning, but it's a swing and a miss. He did this because of the pressure the public's putting on all of us up here to get serious about America's long-term indebtedness.
You know, I'm really confused by what he said, Senator. This is the same president who, as you know, just 4 months ago, signed into law an extension of the Bush-era tax rates.
Yeah.
This is the same president who, when he ran 2 years before that, said he would never sign a tax break for people that he says are rich. This is the same president who really has accumulated debt at a rate faster than any president in American history, suddenly says we have to worry about the debt, but all that spending on all those social programs restated. All you folks on the left that were upset with me 4 months ago, it's the old Barack Obama back again.
And the one thing he didn't do is touch where the debt really is, and that's the entitlement reform. Right. He did nothing about Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid. That is 57% of government spending. Today, with Rand Paul and Mike Lee, I introduced a Social Security reform bill that gets to solvency at a 75-year from now. It will be fully solvent. We adjust the age to 70 slowly but surely over time, and we means test benefits, and we don't raise 1 penny of taxes. To anybody listening to this program, tax increases cost Americans jobs. There's no other way to say it.
2 days before our taxes are due. I don't know if he looked at the calendar, because until April 15th, he announces that he wants to raise taxes on the people that pay the most. Isn't this dead on arrival in the Congress today with 47 Republicans in the Senate and a majority of Republicans in the House? He knows this isn't going anywhere.
Well, have you ever been to a party with somebody that really didn't want to be there?
Yes.
The president really doesn't want to be here. He's talking about things that he doesn't really believe in, and that's reducing the size of government. But he did not produce, even today, a budget that deals with our long-term debt issues. You cannot get America out of bankruptcy until you reform Medicare, Social Security, and Medicaid, and he did nothing about these entitlement programs. You can't get enough taxes from people making over $250,000 a year to begin to get us out of debt, and 40% of Americans don't pay any income tax, and the ones that are making over $250,000, 750,000 of them are small business people who create the jobs for our economy. Right. It's a job killer.
Senator Graham, tell me where you think we're going to go in the long run, because in about 3 weeks, the president, and I think the Republican leadership may go along with him on this as long as they can get some concessions, will ask the Congress to amend the law to allow him to borrow more money. Now, he has borrowed more money at a faster rate, as you know, than any president in history. Today, as usual, he blamed it on his predecessors. But he's added $1 trillion a year. He wants to add another $1 trillion between now and October. He wants to add $1.7 trillion in the year following that. Is the Congress going to let him borrow at the rate at which he wants to? Are they going to let him borrow, period?
I hope that we will not raise the debt limit until we address why we're in debt. The debt limit being raised without fundamental reform is just a bad idea. It is It is feeding the system that exists today. What we ought to do is come up with entitlement reform before we raise the debt. Work together as Republicans and Democrats to do what Rand Paul and Mike Lee did along with me today. Show you can save Social Security from bankruptcy. You can wipe $5.4 trillion of unfunded debt off the table if you just adjust the age and means test benefits. I don't want to tax anybody, but in the future, at my income level, I would give up some future benefits for Social Security based on my income. Just don't raise my taxes, because that hurts the ability to create jobs. I'm not going to vote for the debt ceiling increase until the Congress and the President assures me we're going to deal with why we got in debt.
All right. What is your opinion of Congressman Paul Ryan's proposals, which would cut far more than the President's in future years? And what will happen to those proposals when I think they are passed by the House later this week and end up on Harry Reid's desk somewhere?
I think Paul has come up with a very good plan. He did the hard things when it comes to entitlement. He didn't do a whole lot on Social Security, but when it comes over here, I imagine the demagoguery will start about his Medicare proposal. He takes Medicaid and he block grants it. He gives the money to governors to come up with programs to serve people. You know, in South Carolina, we have different health care issues than they do in California. So a block grant in Medicaid not only saves money, it helps people with a better quality of health care. Paul did that. So at the end of the day, Mike Lee, Rand Paul, and Lindsey Graham today showed the Congress and the nation how you can save Social Security from bankruptcy by continuing what Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill did, adjust the age from 67 to 70. At 2032, the new retirement age would be 70. And that's a long time away. You can plan for it, and we means test benefits.
Thank you for looking at me when you said that's a long time away. Is there any room in your ideas about saving us money for meaningful cuts in the Defense Department's budget?
There's some ways to reform defense spending, but in terms of GDP spending, the amount of money we spend as a nation on defense, we're at a historic low since World War II. But here's how you save money on defense. When you build a new weapon system, it's a cost-plus contract. Guess what? The contractor could care less how long it takes to develop the weapon, because they get paid. And at the end of the day, the more it costs to develop the weapon system, the more they get from the government. Why don't you replace that system with a fixed price? Tell contractors, if you want to build weapons for the United States, you got to put 25% of the cost in development up front. When it's completed, it's going to be a fixed price contract, and any overruns you're on the hook for if you cause them. That could save hundreds of billions of dollars just by changing the way you do business.
That's that military-industrial complex thing Eisenhower warned us about. Senator Graham, Lindsey Graham, Republican from South Carolina, it's a pleasure as always. Thanks for being with us.
Go get him, Judge. Thanks.
You got it. And the president continues the blame game, pointing the finger at the Republicans' budget plan, which he called, quote, listen to this, deeply pessimistic.
They want to give people like me a $200,000 tax cut that's paid for by asking 33 seniors each to pay $6,000 more in health costs. That's not right. And it's not going to happen as long as I'm president.
We're not sure if Vice President Joe Biden was listening, though. It kind of looks like he may have, look at him there, he may have dozed off. But I know someone who was listening to that speech today who did not doze off and has some strong opinions on it. Former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee, host of Huckabee here on Fox News, my colleague and friend, and the author of the New York Times bestseller, A Simple Government. Governor Huckabee, welcome here. Sorry to introduce you with that picture of Joe Biden sleeping, but that's really no surprise.
Well, he wasn't sleeping, Judge. He was praying. He was praying that nobody will find out just how disingenuous they are about actually cutting the expenses, and hoping and praying that the American people don't catch on to the games that they're trying to hoist upon us, because I don't believe for a minute that President Obama was ever serious about reducing spending until he was sort of brought into this kicking and screaming, because the Republicans have forced him to accept that people aren't going to continue to let the government spin them into oblivion.
You know, Governor Mike, I think you put your finger on on the perfect word, disingenuous. This is the same president who boasted about his negotiating skills last December when he begrudgingly signed into law an extension of the Bush-era tax rates. He praised the idea that more money in the pockets of hardworking Americans, entrepreneurial Americans who invest money will produce more jobs. Today he said the opposite. Do you think he heard something from his left-wing buddies out there who are getting a little disenchanted with him?
Well, the left is very unhappy with him. He's finding himself in a very difficult position. The base that has sort of brought him to the dance, which is the far left, they're mad at him over Libya. They're mad at him for the deal that he struck on the Bush tax cuts. They're mad that he actually ended up with a deal not only to reduce spending by $40 billion, which he didn't want to do, which was an $80 billion turn from the $40 billion additional monies he wanted to spend.
Right.
But then John Boehner got something else out of the deal. He got standalone votes on Planned Parenthood and NPR that the Congress has never been willing to give before. So there's some reasons that the left is unhappy with President Obama. The image that comes to mind, Judge, is that of trying to push a rope. A leader can grab something with a rope and pull. President Obama has shown really an inability to understand leadership is getting in front of something, not behind it. And again, the image that I have of him in all of this is pushing the rope, not pulling it.
You know, I wonder if he wasn't motivated by somebody like Paul Krugman, the Princeton professor and New York Times very, very liberal columnist, whose article on Monday, that's this past Monday, which followed the midnight deal Friday night, basically said, where's the president? He's not leading at all, because the left has been clamoring for his leadership. I think Senator Lindsey Graham agrees with me. I don't know if you heard the interview, that today was the kickoff of the president's re-election campaign. He's trying to throw in a little bit of something for everybody, and the bottom line is that nobody will believe any of it.
Well, the Republicans certainly don't believe that he's serious about reducing the deficit and the debt by believing raising taxes is the way to go about it.
Right.
And I want to note something. When the president talks about raising taxes, notice there's a marriage penalty here, which is, to me, very counterproductive to building a strong economy. It's $200,000 for the individual. It's $250,000 for a couple or a family, which means also a small business. So you're, in essence, penalized $150,000 if you happen to be married. Or if you're a small business, there's that penalty that's subtle, but yet it's still there, and it should be absolutely unacceptable to the Republicans to accept that.
Don't you think the idea, Governor Huckabee, of raising taxes on anyone in a recession is dead on arrival? Dead on arrival because the Republicans control the House and tax legislation has to begin there, so it'll never even get to the floor. And dead on arrival because it just doesn't make economic sense. When you have bad times, the government should take less money from people, not more.
I think it's very much like the situation on our border. Nobody believes we ought to be talking about what to do for illegal immigrants who are here until we secure the border. I don't think most Americans believe we ought to be talking about that we're going to raise taxes unless we first show over a longitudinal time period some actual reductions in real spending. And I'm not talking a few billion.
Right.
I'm talking about the kind of serious maybe reformations of these entitlement programs. It doesn't have to mean that old people and women and children are going to die. We're not talking about ripping sandwiches out of a child's hand at school.
Right.
What we are talking about is making the programs efficient by giving them local leadership rather than believing that somebody sitting in Washington can figure out that one size will fit all in every one of the 50 states.